There was an overgrown piece of land that had been undeveloped for a long time near the Star City development zone. It was auctioned by the city and was sold at a very good price. Unfortunately, the businessman who bought this land was caught up with company management issues, went bankrupt, and left. Afterwards, the government took the land back. Afterward, a spiritual group wanted to buy this piece of land to build a retreat. They invited several feng shui masters to help them determine the energy of the land. They told the group that the feng shui on this piece of land was very poor. They ultimately left the matter unchecked and withdrew. Early in the morning, the first ray of sunlight rose from the horizon when 2 ATVs roared and stopped in the vicinity of this piece of land. 3 men and a woman then got off from the vehicles.
I've handled the matter, so you can be at ease. This land is said to have a poor feng shui, but I don't believe it. City Hall is anxious to sell it off, so I used my connections and easily bought the land at a very low price. The area is quite big, and it's more than enough to build 10 buildings here.
The person speaking was Carl Jorgensen. He walked in the middle of the others, pointing at the overgrown, uncultivated land in front of them. Frank Hammond said with a faint smile, "You said you were at ease, eh? I don't believe the Jorgensen family would use substandard connections, no? I heard you went to City Hall and had a drink with the mayor until 2 a.m. last night." Carl laughed.
Having a late-night drink in order to get the written approval on a deal with the transaction procedures is worth it, right? I've assigned someone to handle the other details. In less than 1 week, this plot of land will officially be ours.
Jimmy Dean said, "What I'm most concerned about is when Tom will arrive so we can meet him. For this large business investment, I've used nearly all my reserve funds. If it weren't for my dad knowing I was cooperating with you, he would have simply rejected me." Lulu stepped up and said, "Jimmy, before I joined this venture, you seemed like you were able to come up with more funds. Before, you looked both confident and prudent, so what's the problem now? Never did I expect that your conscience would get the best of you." Jimmy was embarrassed.
Old friend, you can make your point without slapping someone's face, you know? Damn what you said. How can I endure this?
The others burst into laughter. Carl said,
I called Tom this morning and he said he'll rush over and catch up with us. Guys, as we discussed, our agreement concerning the 10% shares for Tom. Even if we later decide to inject additional funds, we cannot dilute his shares.
The others nodded in agreement. Carl continued,
Our project goal for the time being is to only construct 1 building. If we have more money in the future, we can start another project. Tom will receive the shares from this project, so he will be willing to draw up more designs for other projects. Okay, let's inspect this plot of land and see how many projects we can make here. That guy wants to make money. It's necessary for us to get him aboard our war chariot.
Lulu's eyes brightened, and she gave him a thumbs up. I've often heard the famous Carl Jorgensen was resourceful and has a rare and outstanding talent for things of the business world. Today, I've finally seen and experienced it myself. I was very much hoping that Tom and I would be able to cooperate on many projects. What Lulu said was not false. The night Tom left, she returned to her family's home to see her father and grandfather. She found her mother was also at home and tended to be away for long periods of time. Her mother and older brother had misunderstood that she and Tom had a special relationship. Even after she had explained everything, her mother was still hoping she and Tom would get closer. It was crystal clear why her family was hoping she became closer to Tom. On the one hand, her mother hoped their relationship would develop so that Tom would become the ideal son-in-law of the family. On the other hand, Tom was highly held as a cultivator. In this world, cultivators were as rare as the feathers of a phoenix. If any family member could have a relationship with a cultivator, they would definitely benefit greatly. They had developed into one of the largest and best families on Chadworth Island, but they also had come to a bottleneck. Thus, with the news of Tom's identity, they were able to see the opportunity for bigger development. Carl said,
As long as Tom is tied to our mission, I believe there will be more surprises. Some rich and powerful people are considering cooperating in more business deals and want to expand their real estate business.
Frank was confused.
What rich and powerful people are you talking about? Jasper Jorgensen, the Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical CEO, and my uncle. He's also Tom's apprentice.
Say what? Frank and Jimmy's expressions instantly changed. They had investigated Tom before and heard the rumors that he and Jasper's relationship was unusual. Jasper even publicly said he greatly admired Tom as a spiritual master. So was this matter actually true? Lulu squinted as she nodded and said, What an unusual and unconventional man. For me, Tom is unfathomably deep. I believe the surprises he'll be giving to us will surely be much more than this. Half an hour later, a taxi arrived at the property. Tom exited the cab and saw Carl and the others standing nearby. He did not expect that the ones Carl wanted him to meet were people he had already met before. Tom's eyes swept from Lulu and then to Frank and Jimmy. Frank said, Hello, Tom. We had small problems before, but I hope you don't take it to heart. In fact, before we went to Chadworth Island, we came to Star City and heard about you from Carl. I wanted to meet you, but never did I expect that I would run into you on the island. Jimmy also said, Yes, at that time we knew who you were from Carl, and we wanted to send you that jade pendant. Tom nodded. He also knew about that matter. In fact, Frank and Jimmy didn't stand out much to him since the real opponent at that time was Elliot and Jefferson. In order to be on good terms with him, Frank and Jimmy sent him the gift. Tom did not want to pursue the past matter, so he dropped it. Tom said to Lulu, And how did you get here? Carl only told me he wanted me to meet his 2 friends. That should be Frank and Jimmy. But how did you get together with them? Lulu resented Tom's prodding question. What does it matter how I came here? Those 2 guys are the ones who invited me to invest in this project. Carl, Frank, and Jimmy stared blankly at each other. Why did it sound like they were flirting with each other? Lulu suddenly realized how the conversation sounded. Her face turned scarlet immediately, but she did not explain further. From the beginning, Tom did not have such thoughts. He simply smiled wryly and said, Forget it. I came to look at the project. Anyway, is this the place? It has a very good feng shui pattern. If we construct a large building here, no matter its geographical position, it will prosper and succeed, but... Carl promptly asked,
But what?
Tom pointed to the land and said, But if we only want a building there, I think it's quite wasteful. In my view, it's better to construct it here. and then surround it with a bustling commercial ring and a high-end residential area. Take a look at that side. Even though it's quite far away from the road to this place, the area there is bigger. If we can use it reasonably, it will boost the value of this place." The others looked at each other in amazement. Carl probed further.
Tom, can you design the entire area for us?
"It's easy." Carl became excited.
We'll go all out with your suggestion. However, our funds are limited, and at the most, we're only able to build one building for now. If the following stage goes well, we can discuss the development of this entire place together.
Tom nodded and said, "If there is a follow-up project, I will participate." "Ah, right, I need the money now. Has Jack given you the money?"
I've sent all of Jack's assets to be evaluated. There's a total of approximately $135 million. His fixed assets will be taken by my family. Later on, I will ask the finance company to transfer the money into your bank account.
Good. Although he had yet to reach the late stage of the skin strengthening stage, he wanted to prepare for his future needs of medicinal herbs, precious minerals, and other things he would need for it. With money in his hand, he would not miss any opportunity to buy those things he required. Suddenly, Tom got an idea and said, "All of you come from a powerful background, and you should have a lot of channels and connections. I'll send you a detailed list of medicinal herbs and precious minerals. If you'd like to help, please find the ingredients I need. As for the price, you can tell me, and I will pay it." Carl asked,
Tom, what are you buying medicinal herbs and precious minerals for?
Lulu quickly answered, "I know Tom is very skilled in traditional medicines. The herbs would be used for that, right? But for the precious ores, I don't know what he wants to do with them." Tom said, "I have my own reasons for needing them." Frank said,
Tom, I'll take your request, and I give you my word to manage it. Once I have the news, I'll immediately inform you.
"Me too," Jimmy agreed. "Thank you." During their conversation, Tom's cell phone rang. When he saw the caller ID, his face suddenly changed. He answered the phone and said, "Millie, it's you at last."
Hey bro, do you want to enjoy this year's cricketing festival to the maximum?
Of course, man.
Then hurry up, go to Parimatch Sports website and check out our new sportswear line, inspired by champions and designed for the real cricket lovers like you and me.
Wow, really cool and stylish.
Parimatch Sports. Take your sports experience to the next level. Be like a champion. Try on now. www.parimatchsports.shop.
Millie? The people listening to Tom's conversation stared blankly at each other. They were familiar with the name, but no one could immediately remember who this person was. "I got it. Wait for me there." Tom hung up the phone and told Carl, "I have an urgent matter, so I need to leave immediately. This plot of land is good. You can buy this place and develop it. I have a feeling everything will go well with this project decision. In addition, send me the data about this land's area, length, width, and other data after you've surveyed it. Once you've bought the land, I'll start drawing the architectural design. And if later you need any other changes, we can work over them, okay? See you then." After having said that, he turned around and walked into the distance. Lulu strode over and blocked Tom. "Wasn't Millie the one who called you the boss of the Everlasting Feast restaurant on Chadworth Island? It's that Millie, right?" "Yes," Tom said with a nod. "Millie and I are like sisters. I'll take you with me and we can meet her together." "No," Tom directly refused. He didn't want Lulu to come along with them. The topic he and Millie were about to discuss was extremely confidential, and it absolutely could not be spread to a third person's ears. He wanted to keep all precautions in case she was involved with those in his inner circle who betrayed and persecuted him. He needed to be prepared to fight, because for him to escape later would be a problem. "Why not? Do you have some shameful, shady business you don't want people to know about? Is it inconvenient if I'm present?" Lulu asked with her eyebrows frowning. "That's right, it's shameful." Lulu was dumbfounded. She did not expect that Tom would reply in such a straightforward and open manner, which made her directly abort the words she was prepared to say. She found herself speechless. Finally, she reprimanded him. "Shameless!" Tom shook his head and ignored Lulu. After he walked a few steps, he suddenly stopped, turned, and asked in a soft voice, "Do you really want to go with me?" "Yes," Lulu blurted out. She regretted losing her calmness, but she could not figure out why she was so crazy around him. In the past, she could control everything, but being together with Tom disrupted her rhythm, leaving him in control. This thing about her annoyed her completely. Tom said, "Then let's go, but I don't have a car, so you'll have to be the one driving the car." "Sure thing." The two got into her Land Rover and headed toward the end of the road. She had always been wild and domineering toward others, and her white Land Rover SUV truly matched her character. Vroom. The roar of the engine echoed in the wilderness as they moved like a white arrow straight toward the far end of the road. Carl, Frank, and Jimmy looked at each other with a strange expression. Jimmy said, "Carl, Tom is not only someone you admire, but now I admire him too. So damned amazing. He can even pack up Lulu and tame that wild horse. Not to mention Millie. That icy belle rushes from a far distance all the way to Star City to rendezvous with him. This guy's the slayer of all the single bells." Frank added, "I thought I was mistaken. I didn't expect you to be so aware of this, Jimmy. Did you see Lulu's expression and hear her tone? It was really quite a sight. I've never seen Lulu act this timid before. Isn't it wild?" Jimmy laughed and said, "I dare to bet that Lulu will be planted in the hands of Tom before long. She has a keen eyesight and is a one-of-a-kind woman. Rarely excited and unmoved, but once her true feelings are moved and aroused, she will be going one way to the end." Listening to his two friends' conversation, Carl said,
Having love affairs often is meddlesome. Tom might have a good IQ, but I can tell his energy levels is not where it should be. It's not necessarily a good thing for him to be hawked and entangled by so many women.
"Huh? What do you mean by that?" Jimmy ridiculed. "Carl, you cannot put the blame on the girls. Whether it's Lulu or Millie, they are exceptionally intelligent girls. It's because he is playing them to be attracted to him. If you don't believe me, just wait and see how Tom, sooner or later, will lay with the intoxicated beauties down and have them dancing out of his palm."
Beat it. Leave me out of that topic. I don't want to hear any more of this.
Carl cried. He wasn't sure if Jimmy's comment made him laugh or cry. All he wanted to do was close his ears. Speeding along the road, Lulu was a bit absent-minded. She was thinking deeply about the relationship between Tom and Millie. She knew Millie's personality. If there was no special relationship between the two, why would she come all the way to Star City to find him? She almost never left the Everlasting Feast restaurant. Not even a step. So what was up with her now? Tom went to the Everlasting Feast restaurant and broke through the 1,000 Revolution array, demonstrating his extraordinary skill there. Could it be that they hooked up at that time? Hey, concentrate on driving, Tom chided as Lulu veered into the other lane. Lulu glanced at him and said, Tom, we have shared hardships and we even lived together. Our relationship should have reached the point for us to be able to ask about anything, right? Tom turned toward the window. He was unwilling to respond to her question. And about living together? That was totally wrong. They just stayed under one roof. But it could not be considered as living together. It could only be regarded as staying together under one roof and inside 2 different rooms in one house. He even gave her a healing massage for free to help treat her wounds. Also, they had Natalie and Tiffany's company. Lulu was not angry and continued asking, Since we are good friends and can talk about anything, you should talk to me. What's your relationship with Millie? Are you dating her? Have a chat with someone else, not me, Tom blurted. He did not know what relationship he had with Millie. Perhaps they were mortal and sworn enemies. Lulu's brow slanted, and she said, I didn't expect that you have a jealous heart. Now drive the car. If you dilly-dally again, I'll throw you out. Lulu became furious. She suddenly stepped harder on the accelerator. You're speeding. You'll be fined, or worse, you'll wreck and get us killed. You want to drive? Ugh. Tom sighed heavily. A woman's inner world was really a seabed of needles. He really did not understand what kind of thoughts were inside this woman's mind. Starlight Building. Millie wore a white floating skirt and a white blouse. She carried along with her a white handbag. She was as though a fairy maiden had appeared in the mortal world. Being out of tune and incompatible with noisy scenes, she was stunning. However, a chilling aura exuded from her body, causing any man who wanted to come up to her to shrink back. Finally, a handsome and graceful guy approached and said with a smile, Young lady, is there anything I can assist you with? Go away. Millie's voice was sweet, but the words she spoke made the guy freeze. He immediately stepped to the side. Millie wanted to run away, but she wanted to see Tom, so she fought back the urge and continued waiting. She rarely had contact with the outside world and was extremely unfamiliar with how to properly interact with common people. The SUV pulled up to the curb. Tom told Lulu, Thanks for bringing me here. I have important things to discuss with Millie. You can go now. What? Lulu's eyes almost popped out of her head. Do you mean to tell me that you let me come with you just so I could be your driver? Do you have a problem with that? To hell with you, Tom. Lulu was no longer able to bear it anymore. Tom replied, I have things to take care of. I'll see you later. Then he pushed open the door, got out, and walked toward Millie, who was standing nearby. Lulu glared angrily at Tom. She immediately unfastened her seatbelt and raced after him. Maybe he did not welcome her, but would her good friend Millie also refuse her? Millie, I'm so glad to see you, Lulu shouted as she sprinted to Millie's side. She affectionately pulled her into her arms for a warm embrace.
Going to die? Like this?